Now let's, go back to earth in a sense where the rubber meets the road and think about I want to have this conversation with a Muslim. Many people are afraid how to start a conversation with a Muslim. One of the ways to start a conversation with a Muslim is to have and start with an icebreaker or a question. Do you know what's an icebreaker? Icebreaker to break the ice. So, how do you start a conversation with a Muslim? What are some of the things that you can use to get the conversation going? How do you start? What are some of the icebreakers or questions that you can use? I like using what is called open-ended, non-confrontational question. An open-ended question does not have a right or wrong answer. It doesn't have a yes or no answer. An open-ended question has to be something that you allow the other person to share a little bit of his or her heart with you. Two criteria: open-ended, has no right or wrong answer, non-confrontational. Now you can develop your own icebreaker questions along the way as you become more experienced with sharing with Muslims. But I would like to share with you two that I've used and I found them to be successful. Some of those open-ended questions. And I can start with something like, what attracted you to Islam? Why do you like Islam? What makes you a Muslim? You see, open-ended has no right or wrong question. I'm giving that person an opportunity to share a little bit of his heart. For instance, why are you a Muslim? Again, like you would love a Muslim to share, about his religion, why he's a Muslim, where he's coming from, and you are poking him in a nice way to open a conversation without saying, like yes or no, without saying right or wrong, but just, like to be open about his religion, to be open about himself. And the best way always to start with the icebreaker or with a question. Or what do you find that is attractive about Islam? Again, open-ended, non-confrontational question. You're allowing that person to share a little bit of his or her heart with you. How did you come to be a Muslim, for instance? What is about your religion that you find attractive? Now, why you are a Muslim rather than a Buddhist or Christian or anything else? And the Muslim will say, well, here's why I'm a Muslim. Since I was born in a Muslim household, I never know anything else. This will open the door for a Muslim to share where he's coming from. So you can frame the rest of the conversation based on his knowledge of Islam and why he is attracted to it. As I said, for instance, he will say, well, here's why I'm Muslim. Since I was born in a Muslim household, I never know anything else. And you will say, for example, the Muslim will say, I'm enamored with the scientific evidence in the Quran. Again, this will open the door, like to frame the rest of the conversation based on his answers. But actually, after he share, why, what he love about Islam, usually at at the end of the conversation, after he share why he believe what he believe about Islam, why he is attracted about Islam, more often than not, the conversation will ricochet and turn back to you. After he share why he believe what he believe, why he is enamored, why he is attracted to Islam, the question will turn around, ricochet back to you, and then he will ask, so tell me why you are a Christian. And you see what that does. Now you have a wide open door to share with him why you believe what you believe about the gospel. Now you have a wide open door to share your heart with him. And because you've given him the time to share a little bit of his or her heart with you, you will have the privilege to share a little bit of your heart with them. If you have taken the time to listen to them, they will take the time to listen to you. An easy way to get the conversation going. This is another question that you can use. You say, what do you understand about what Christians believe? You're opening the way you say, well, I really don't know a lot of things about Christianity. Or what misconception you think Christians have about Islam? Again, non-confrontational, an easy way to get the conversation going. As I mentioned earlier, I was in about 3 years ago, before COVID, 2, 3 years ago. I was visiting a missionary friend in Uskudar in Istanbul. And at the time, the end of my time over there, my friend set an appointment with a very well imam in that area. I didn't know that imam, but my friend told me, please come with me and see how we can open the door with this imam. So we get an appointment to meet him at his house. We get there, the imam comes out, greet us, take us into his office, and after we sat there, like he brought all kind of food, and after we sat there for a while, after introducing each other, I used this question with the imam. I said, love to talk with Muslims as I meet them all around the world, and I like to discover about their beliefs as I can encounter people from all parts of the world, as I encounter people from different religious background. And I told him, I'm just curious, the imam. And I told him, please tell me what you believe about Christianity, because I fear just as we Christians have misconception about Muslims, what Muslims believe, I think Muslims have misconception about what Christians believe as well. So I said, Imam, share with me what you know about Christianity. Tell me what you know about Christianity. You see, again, open-ended, non-confrontational question. I'm asking him just a question. And his answer astounded me. He said, well, I've been living in Istanbul for more than 20 years, and there is no Christian ever asked me these questions. You are the first Christians that ever asked me these kind of things. And then he said, I do not know anything about what Christianity teach. Please, can you tell me what you believe? And the door was wide open, and we sat there for an hour and a half sharing the gospel with him. Again, open-ended, non-confrontational question, something, an icebreaker, something to get the conversation going. And you will have a sense, like where the conversation is going along the way as you become more experienced. You can develop your own, icebreaker questions, whatever you feel like is suitable for you, it's fitting for you in whatever context you might find yourself, or you can use these things. Why you're a Muslim? Tell me what's the misconception you think about Christianity. Christians have misconception about Islam, and then whenever you start sharing, and then he will ask you. But even if he did not ask you about like your Christian faith, after he shared with you, you can ask him, would you allow me to share a little bit of the gospel with you? Do you want me to share my faith? Because first, you give him the privilege to share his heart with you. You gave him the right to share his heart. Now you have the privilege and the right, to hear from you, to share your heart with him, in a sense. So this is an easy way to get the conversation going. Now, sometimes, we don't know how to start, witnessing to them. And the best way, for Muslims to witness to them is through storytelling. Why I'm saying this? Muslims respond greatly whenever we speak to their hearts rather than their minds. Jesus was a master storyteller. He continuously presented the gospel with parables and illustrations. The following are 2 or 3 illustrations that I use to show that religion can never save us. And I start with telling them something like this. There's millions of people on this earth who have never seen the serious nature of sin. They know they are going to meet God after death, but they think their religious work will buy their way out of any trouble in which they may find themselves. And as long as they trivialize their sin, they deceive themselves into thinking that they can work their way into heaven by their religious deeds. And I'll tell them it's as futile as a man who was rowing against the river. He was in a boat, caught in a fast-moving water, headed toward a jagged rocks with 150 feet below. Now I say a passerby saw him rowing against the current, but his efforts were futile. Moment by moment, he was getting closer and closer to the roaring falls. The passerby ran to his car, get hold of a rope, and he threw it across the boat. When it fell to the boat, the passerby shouted, "Get hold of the rope and I will pull you to the shore." But the passerby could not believe his eyes, for the man took no notice of him. He was frantically rowing against the current until he disappeared at the edge of the fall to his own death. And I said, God has thrown to us a rope in Jesus Christ. He is the only one who can save us from death and hell. But we have to let go of our own efforts to save ourselves and get hold of the rope. The moment we cease, we stop from our religious rowing and have faith in Jesus, we find peace with God. And I use this verse. The Bible says, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that's not of yourself, it is the gift of God, not of words, lest anyone should boast." Now, this is the second illustration that I use. It's very simple, the first one. Like in maybe 2-3 minutes, I can get the idea, the meaning, or an illustration of the gospel to get through to his heart through a parable, through an illustration. Now, this is the second one to show them that religion can never save man as well. And I tell them, imagine one day you go to a swimming pool and you dive into the deep water. You find yourself in trouble. You are drowning and you cannot save yourself because you do not know how to swim. You're hopeless and helpless. You shout for help and someone approached and said, "Come on, friend, pull yourself together and save yourself." What a terrible thing to say to a drowning man, because there's no time for a drowning man to save himself. Now, a second person come, he jump in the water and start to swim and say, "Look at me and do as I do, and then you can save yourself." How ridiculous. There is no time again for drowning man to learn how to swim. Now, a third person approach and he dive into the water. He get hold of you, he grab you and he pull you out of water. You resist him, but out of compassion, he saved your life. Now, which of the three person would you thank the most? Surely the third person. Religion is like the two first persons. By nature, we are drowning because of our sin. We are in a mess because we are separated from God. Religion tells us, do this and do that, and don't do this and don't do that, and then you can save yourself. Some spiritual leaders are seen as example. Their followers are told, if you imitate their lifestyle, you will be saved. It is like the second person who jumped in the water. So religion cannot save us. We're hopeless. The Bible says that we're incapable of saving ourselves. That's why we need someone to jump into the water of our life, save us from sin. And this is exactly what God has done. God said to us, I know that you are separated from me. I know that you are in a mess. I know that by giving you laws and commandments would not save you because you are not able, incapable, cannot do them and incapable of doing them. This is why I'm going to come to where you are at and save you from the tyranny of your sin. And I continue to say, so God came to us in the person of Jesus Christ. Christ also suffered once for sin, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God. Tell your friend it is unwise to reject God's saving plan. Ask him what he thinks about the rower that refused to get hold of the rope of salvation. Very easy way to get the gospel. What is all the gospel? In a story that he will be so interested to listen to. And you can, at the end, share a verse that will speak to his heart. Because believe it or not, I will do whatever it takes for the Muslim to read the gospel or to hear the gospel. Why? Because the gospel is the power of God for salvation for everyone who believes.